a lot, now he talks a lot. He'll keep you on your toes. It's the Eric Miranda Show. When he drank a lot, he would fight a lot. He might punch you in your nose. It's the Eric Miranda Show. There are people who would tell you he is crazy, but if you listen closely, he's unbelievable. He used to drink a lot, now he talks a lot. He'll keep you on your toes. It's the Eric Miranda, Eric Miranda, Eric Miranda Show.
Good evening and welcome to the Eric Miranda Show. I'm your host, Eric Miranda, and I'm here with Chris Rael. I know a lot of you say hello.
Hello, folks.
A lot of you have seen Chris. Chris did an amazing sitar version of the Eric Miranda Show theme. And what's cool about that is I'm going to try and learn it. I have never touched a sitar in my life. I've actually carried one tonight. I've never played it. The closest thing I've done to playing sitar is I got a big gulp at 7-Eleven today. Am I getting canceled for that?
No.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's the closest. Now I'm going to go a little bit over Chris's resume. So Chris and I met in 1984 in Rockville, Maryland at Black Pond Studios. I was working on, I don't even remember, was it White? Was that the name? It was pre-Plug Bunnies, right?
Yeah. I mean, I met you and Robin. The Plug Bunnies was in the air.
It was in the air, right? Yeah. We were definitely pissing people off, and that's what Plug Bunnies were meant to do. And so Chris and I met in Black Pond Studios. Chris moved to New York shortly thereafter. What was it, about a year from the time you met us?
I probably knew you down there for like close to a year and a half before I moved up here.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So Chris moved up here, founded Church of Betty, which is a band, New York World Pop Orchestra. He's written 500 tunes. I'm reading this, but I know all this stuff. He's Penny Arcade's musical director. Penny's a New York legend. I saw her show. What was the name of that particular show?
The Art of Becoming.
The Art of Becoming. She was like one of the Warhol gang. She was in like some of the films and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And she like ran with that whole crew. Like she's like real New York. So the fact that you came here from out of state and you basically usurped my New York, man. All the cool things that I wanted to do, you did, man.
Oh.
No, I've done.
You were part of it. You're part of it. You're one of the reasons I ended up here.
Well, I appreciate that. Let me make sure Chris can be heard here. You know, Chris, just give me a little love on your microphone. Oh yeah, I think we're good.
Can you folks hear me okay? I could get a little closer.
Yeah. So yeah, if, you know what? When we play the sitars, if we get too loud, we get too loud. So anyway, so Chris came here. Now I'm gonna let you all know something. So when I first met Chris in the studio Black Pond, Rob Johnson and I ended up doing a little. We ended up being on one of Chris's records. We were on I did a song called "The Hand." I think I was on. I Like What I've Seen So Far. Was that?
Oh yeah.
So far, so good. So and I remember the song "The Hand" in particular. Like I was trying to sing. And Chris knew how to sing. And then in the song "Hand," he did this thing where he just went, "Pacify," and he just let out this note, this like Robin Zander from Cheap Trick, David Byrne. Like it was just like this. And I just remember sitting like, why am I even doing this, man? Like, and I listen to those songs still and your voice, man. So when you did the Eric Miranda Show theme, I was just like, Eric Miranda with that perfect vibrato yours. I was like, yeah. Yeah. And by the way, Katie Huffman, Louis Pasilli, and Francis Dunnery were all supposed to sing the theme song instead of me. Uh-huh. And I sent them all the 3-part harmonies. Francis Dunnery wanted to change the lyrics. I'm like, no, I didn't ask you to write the Eric Miranda Show theme. So tell me about the sitar version. Tell me about how you related to that campy, jazzy, like big band thing and how it ended up that.
Well, the way it is, it's like the sitar is and actually raga, Indian raga music is structured differently than Western music. It's like the patterns are based on a scale that it plays over a steady chord.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of the common chords are like C, C sharp, D, in that range. You see here a lot, but the sitar is tuned basically into a chord, because all of the creativity and stuff and the patterns all comes off of the melodies and scales that you play on the lead string.
Right.
So even though it's got like 18 strings, most of the work is done on one string, and the rest of it is a reverberating bed.
Like drone. Is that what they call like droning?
That's a drone.
Yeah. Cool.
So most Western songs are more than one chord, obviously.
Right.
So one thing that I do that very few people have done, not because it's so incredibly difficult, just because why would anybody do it unless you're a crazy person?
You're modest.
Like myself, is I am really expert at lots and lots of tricks for how to play harmonically complex songs over a one chord drone. This is just something I've learned how to do from playing the sitar for so long.
Right.
So that's what I did with the Eric Miranda show. And I knew it was going to be a challenge because there's a lot of chords in that, and the harmonies are tight and they're complex, and it's got that beautiful 60s television show feeling and stuff. And I'm like, whatever I do with this is going to be completely perverse. It will be a perverse corruption of the beauty of what it is.
Yeah.
I knew that you would like that.
Well, I loved it, and the thing, and I'm thinking, like, how do I, like, I've done covers and I've done things for people, specific things that they've asked, but the idea of, hey, I'm gonna. So let me tell you a little bit about the Eric Miranda Show theme, and I've wanted to talk about this damn theme. I've mentioned it a couple of times on the show, but what's interesting about the theme to me is it started off on an acoustic guitar, and Sheila sat here and watched me do it. And she was like, does that sound like a theme? Because I'm hearing the fake horns, I'm hearing the jazz beat, I'm hearing the bass line, I do a very Les Paul. If you listen closely, it's unbelievable. I go like, it's like very 60s. It's like it could be the theme to any TV show, and I used like this kind of reverby Stratocaster, and one of the things that I loved about doing it was I had a reason to just completely abandon any coolness, any, you know what I mean, like,
yeah,
because like, I'm a poser, right? So I have long hair, like rock and roll. But I was admitting to you the other day that the Carpenters are one of my favorite bands. So to have a reason, like, well, it's got to be this kind of thing. I loved it. And now you come along and you recooled it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, okay, I don't have to be cool. And then Chris comes along and he recools it. Yeah. So what was it like? And it's not like I'm a big deal, but so you knew you were going to come on here and talk about it. You play the song. What are you thinking when you're droning and making that melody work? Are you thinking, is he going to think I'm crazy?
No, not really. Like you and me have known each other a long time. I know you know what types of things you expect from me.
Yeah, totally.
But like when I'm doing it, my melody is like locked in on your melody, and it actually feels to me a lot. I probably feel like I'm playing something that feels more like your version than my own than one might think.
Okay.
I feel like I'm channeling my bud's song.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and that's exactly what you did. I mean, I heard it and I played it, and I played it again, and I played it again, and then I just put it in a text message and sent it to sent it to like 9 people. Like, what do you think of this? And it was totally cool. So all right. So I want to talk. I want to get to the song, and I want to learn how to play. I want to, folks. I'm gonna like Eric, who a lot of you give me these beautiful compliments that Eric can play an instrument. It's not true. I can't play any brass instruments. If you give me a woodwind instrument with that freaking reed,
Yeah,
It sounds like I'm
reads.
the ASPCA shows up because they think I'm killing an animal in my apartment if I blow into one of those. Speaking of animals, my dog is trying to get food out of her. You hear?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make this attempt, but I want to talk about a couple of things. Hey, Roxy, come here, puppy. My puppy's trying to get into her. There's food in her bowl, and she's trying to get into the container. Anyway, so I want to talk about a couple of things. Anti-pop.
Yeah.
So tell me about anti-pop. Your whole anti-pop thing.
Okay. This goes way back. See, Eric knew me when I was like very young and trying to learn to play. I came to music late. I wasn't a person who was born with talent in my hands. I just loved it, so I played a lot. And I was also a very underconfident person when I was young.
You never sounded that way, but okay.
I was. I didn't. I just wasn't seeing any signs that I had any particular gifts for playing music. So I thought, well, if I want to do something interesting with music, then I am going to need to create music with my mind.
Okay.
You know, because I know I'm smart and I know I like stuff that I've never heard before. So I'm going to figure out how to make something that I haven't heard before, and hopefully somebody might enjoy it.
Right.
You know? So it was all about trying to do weird things with simple tools because I could barely play.
Right.
You know, like and could barely sing in tune. So it's like, okay, ideas, simple ideas, put them together in weird ways, smush them together, see what works. So it was all about experimentation with simple things.
Right.
And when we met, that's what I was doing. Basically.
Yeah. So you were underconfident and you didn't think you had talent. And then I sat there in Black Pond Studios recording The Hand with you a few months into our friendship. And I was just like, what? I mean, I just couldn't believe. I have listened to that version of The Hand. I like what I've seen so far. Open Window. Like I've listened to those songs. Like, you know, when I came across them recently on a bunch of cassette tapes that I was turning into MP3s, I hear those songs like I hear old Zeppelin records because they're so a part of my musical vocabulary because I've listened to them. So you, I mean, we're the same age essentially, but you know, you're a year or two older than me, and the influence that you had on my music, you made me realize that if a note comes out, it's a note with the singing, because you certainly weren't afraid to do those compressed high notes. And, you know, and then I always wanted to be a pop guy, but I wanted to do intelligent pop. And that's what you accused me of being. You're like, Eric, it's very intelligent pop. And I'm like, good. I like that. So it's just, it's incredible for me to hear the lack of confidence in the, hey, I couldn't do anything. I just wanted to do something. Yeah. And then to me, who again was like already playing in New York City, I'm in Rockville, Maryland, and this hillbilly ass guy, you know what I mean, from Silver Spring. Is that where you're from? Silver Spring? Like, I'm just like, what? Like you were out cooling us. We were just like, Rob and I were just like, this guy's off the charts. So, oh man, it was so cool.
Well, the thing is that early attitude of trying to just combine things together that haven't been combined together before to try to make something new, that became like the operating aesthetic, the principle behind what we wanted Fang to be. And of course, when you love to play, you play all the time, you get better. So when you start to get better, kind of came up to New York. You and Rob were doing your band. And there were other bands, and what I wanted to do was the through line through the groups that I wanted to be involved with was somebody doing something that nobody else was doing.
Cool.
So that was the thing. So our first album when we came to New York was a compilation album called Anti-Pop, which Eric mentioned before. And Eric's band Plug Bunnies Inc. was one of the 4 groups that was on Anti-Pop, and each of the 4 groups had 3 songs, and this was in the LP days.
Yeah,
so
on vinyl. That was, you know what? That is the first vinyl I was ever on. And I haven't been on a lot of vinyl because everything, all the subsequent things I released, it was kind of CD time.
You were right on the cusp there.
I was right on the cusp.
Yeah.
So the first time I ever heard myself play on vinyl was Chris's record company, Fang Records, Anti-Pop, and it was Life in a Blender, Mommy Heads. Was it Church of Betty? Or was it?
It was called Church of Betty. It was just me on those.
Right,
tracks.
but it was. I wasn't sure if you were Chris Rael. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
But I need a copy of that. I don't have my copy.
Okay.
Are there any copies left?
A couple.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, you got one. I'll get one. I'll bring it to you.
And I remember the record release party, and I remember the Mommy Heads and Life in a Blender, and I was ready for you because I'd heard you, and I was just like, wait, what? This is like insane. It was just like, it was at CBGB's that where we did the release. Yeah, fantastic. So now let's get into the maturity part, right? Because we're Anti-Pop. I wanted to be intelligent pop. And I was like, really, like, I got into the whole WLIR thing. I was like into the Eurogliders, and I was into Echo and the Bunnymen. I was into the Smiths and all that stuff. And I really was in love with Karen Carpenter, like for real, like, you know what I mean? And Freddie Mercury, right? Who do you think would win in a fight? Well, they're both dead now, but
between the two of them?
Yeah, Freddie, right?
I think Karen might.
Yeah, she's a better drummer than he is. She's a better drummer than most people.
Yes.
So now this is the thing. So I saw a documentary called The Other F Word, I think it was. Did you see that?
No.
It's about all of these rock stars who became dads.
Okay.
and it was particularly interesting, like Flea talking. I mean, he brought me to tears at one point because he talks about what he wishes he had with his dad and what he's trying to give his son that he didn't have. But then the tattoo that says, fuck the government or whatever, like something, he's got some tattoo. He's like, how do I explain that to my kid? And then I think about Anti-Pop and all the things. And then I see a video of you playing Love the One You With. You know what I mean? And Beatles songs. And I'm like, what happens? Like, are we just giving up, or did we grow up or give up is the question.
I think grow up, but I don't think that they grow up in that sense. Like sometimes when people use the phrase grow up in a situation like this, they mean like leaving something childish behind.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that kind of grow up. I think it's the kind of grow up where you still, you're still focused and believe in what you believe, but then there's more that you can go and get and add to it, right?
Yeah, like no, 100%. It's when that song actually used to annoy me when I was younger.
Yeah,
because I don't know. Does it start with what is? It's got some kind of weird like cliche opening thing. And then I hear you go, as around, and I was like, that's the way they should have done it. It was good. And then again, the Beatles, right? Like it's like I have this thing that I talk about with people. The Beatles, for me, it's like whenever somebody says the Stones and Beatles thing, I always tell people I'm Stones. And then the Beatles come on when nobody's around. I'm like, I'm such a fucking liar. Because look, I love the Stones, but when the Beatles come on, I sat Danny Dunnery here one day, and he's 20. He was born in 1997, and he's from Northern England, so he was actually born in 1997. And he kind of, I said, oh, that sounds a little bit like If I Fell, one of the songs he's working on. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if I know that one. So he sounds like the Beatles, the same reason everybody does, because no matter what you're listening to, somebody who was writing that listened to the Beatles, right? Mm. But what was interesting about it is I sat here and we played Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And I can't believe I just said the whole fucking title of that. Nobody's ever done that, right? I'm probably the first ever. And he was just kind of like nervous listening to, like he was kind of blown away. And as I'm like, yeah, listen to this, I'm like, holy Christ! Like we forget how good those Beatles records are. And as Glyn Johns or Andy Johns, you know, who was the engineer on one of the first, he and his brother were the engineers on the first 3 Led Zeppelin records. He said, man, those records were mixed 4 times because they were bouncing. So for those of you who have never been in a recording studio, what we do now, especially with Pro Tools and computers, is, you know, you play something and then as it's playing back, you just keep stacking, you keep multi-tracking over it. The Beatles had 4 tracks and they were essentially doing 16-track recordings. By recording to 3 of the tracks, playing those 3 tracks down onto 1 track, then playing another 3 tracks with that. And they did it 4 times essentially. And then Andy Johns was lamenting, did they, you know, necessity is the mother of invention. Are the records that good because of what they had to work with versus they just, you know, it's hard to say, right?
The older processes force the artists to command a greater control of the tools,
right,
to get the great sound.
Yeah.
It's easier to get the great sound now because there are a million ways you can do easier things than what those guys did.
Right. And then we all right. So now you, Stones, Beatles.
I love them both. I gotta say, Beatles.
You gotta say the Beatles, right?
Yeah.
But you understand that's not as cool, right? Like if you know, like if you see a chick in a leather jacket with a cigarette and a belly button ring, and you in a banger. Excuse me, am I getting canceled for that? And you want to sleep with her when you're younger and not married and not dads and adults and stuff. You tell her the Beatles, and she's going to be like, "Yeah, I'll take Mick Jagger over." You know what I mean? Like that's what happens. That's been my experience. But so I lie. I just lie to people's face. I say, yeah, I'm a Stones guy. And then
well, the thing is, you know, like my friends who love the Stones, who are real Stones over Beatles people, it's like, I understand exactly why that feel that way. And I feel supportive of them, even though my own personal opinion leans the other way.
That's very new world of you, man. That's very, very kind of you.
I just love the Stones.
Yeah, no. Listen,
all I'm saying is I get it.
Oh, dude, listen. Exile on Main Street is definitely one of my go-tos. Exile, Sticky Fingers, and Some Girls are just like 3 perfect records to me. I see. I'm looking at. I always say the Beatles are alien hybrid. Yeah, they are. Like Steve Aceto said that it's true, right? So now for me, you know, so I do the whole Stones Beatles thing, but when I was listening to this stuff with Danny Dunleary, I was absolutely killed by what you forget until they come on. And then, you know, so somebody called them an alien. Other people say they were invented by the deep state, the whole, you know, you have the whole Laurel Canyon thing, all the weird shit. Like, did you know this? And I'm in a circle of friends of Brian May from Queen. So I got to be careful, but I'm just going to say this. Brian May, when you read the book about him building his guitar, 2 things. So I read the book, Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, which is it's McGowan's book on how all of these people, like, I don't know if you know that Frank Zappa's dad was a chemical weapons expert. Papa John's Phillips' dad was OSA, which was the CIA. It just goes on and on. Amit Erginen, who founded Atlantic Records, and David Crosby went to military prep school together because his dad was a diplomat from the Middle East, and Crosby's dad was, you know, OSI, whatever. Oh, wow. It just goes on and on and on. It's like crazy, the connections, the family connections, the Van Cortlands. It's all crazy. So I read Brian May's book on building the guitar, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I love Brian May, and I do. And then I read the Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon and how all these, like 1 in 4 people in the canyon died in like 1964. The guy from Canned Heat, going up the country. That's where. So one day I heard that and he goes, I might even leave the USA. And when I heard that note, I was like, you know what? Somebody should like kill that motherfucker. Well, somebody did, but it was ruled a suicide. So apparently He shot himself, then lit himself on fire, and the feds got there and said it was suicide.
Whoa.
So all this weird stuff happens. Then I read Brian May's book again as I was waiting for my Andrew Guyton replica. And Brian May says, oh, yeah, and my dad, it was a real pleasure because they had a fight, Brian and his dad. And he said, but we buried the hatchet when I was able to fly him over to Madison Square Garden on the Concorde. It was a real treat for him because he worked on the sightless radar system.
Okay.
And I was just like, that's interesting. Isn't that what we use to like spy on people now? The radio towers, right? And then he says, oh, and when I was making the algorithm or whatever for the fret radius, he said, I was lucky because in high school, I had access to a really powerful computer because I worked for BMI Weapons Systems as an intern. Then he gets crowned or whatever. He gets made a knight. And then Eric Clapton said he got injured from the vaccine. And then he calls him, Brian May from Queen called Eric Clapton a fruitcake. And I'm like, oh my God, is my hero one of them? Is he a psyop for the British government? Anyway, so that's
wow.
So anyway, so people believe that the Beatles were created by the CIA. And Jim Morrison's dad, did you know this? I never remember the name of the ship. Jim Morrison's dad. You know the Gulf of Tonkin incident, right? Where we lied and said we were attacked and then started carpet bombing Vietnam.
Yeah.
Jim Morrison's dad was the commander of that ship.
Wow. Yeah.
And Jim Morrison said he didn't have a relationship with his dad, but 3 months before his first record came out, they were yucking it up on the battleship.
Wow.
I don't know. Guy, listen, let me just make a disclaimer. First of all, Chris had no knowledge that I was going to go down this rabbit hole, so you can't cancel him because of me. He may have to go to Instagram and say, I'm never talking to Eric again, but he had no idea this was coming. And I'm not saying anything. I'm just telling you, I read that book.
Okay.
So people do believe the Beatles were created in a lab. Now, I'm going to have one more sip of Big Gulp, and then I want Chris to teach. So, folks, I am going to play a sitar for the first time in my life. Can you show the camera that pick you wear? Oh, nice. I think I'd have to focus it a little better, but
Let's see if we can.
yeah, oh, look at that. So it looks like
It's like it fits like a guitar pick. You kind of hold from the end and go back and forth. This thing slides over your whole finger like this, and then your finger goes like this back and forth across the string.
I think I learned that in a porn video.
It's got certain porn style movements when you demonstrate.
Do you have one of those for me?
Yes, I do. I'll
Right,
get it for
cool.
you.
All right. By the way, in-house guest here, by the way. You're not used to this, are you? So getting back to the F word. So before we start actually playing, do you want me to pick that one up, or are you going to hand that to me, or? Can I use your regular pick if I have to? All right, cool. Now, is this the one I'm playing?
Yes. Here is your pick.
Okay, and this goes on my first finger, the pick.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
How do I look?
You're looking pretty sitar rock and roll. There you go. You're hearing the first Miranda raga.
Are they gonna call me Raggy Shenka?
Yeah, Raggy Shank.
Is he good?
Yes. He's dead, but he's good. That's very good what Eric is doing. Most people cannot get that much sound so quickly.
Okay, now, so what's the first position for the song? Hey.
Well, the spot that you want to work off of is this fret.
Right here.
This one. That one will. I'm sorry. That'll give you the basic note of the chord. And what you want to do is you want to when your pick, you kind of strike it. Primarily focus on this one, and then just let these ring.
Oh, I just dropped my pick. I just yanked my pick right off my finger. Got it. Okay. Okay, are you ready, folks? So now what do I do while we're playing? Can I just stay here?
Yeah, you can go. You can kind of play these strings down here. That makes nice high thing.
Oh. And then you did that cool run where you go.
That's pretty good, Eric. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good. It's
guys.
nice down here.
Oh, that's much harder. Hang on.
Very good. That Eric is a sitar prodigy. You're seeing a sitar prodigy born right in front of you live on the internet right now.
So now he's going to try and coach him and say, "Don't tell me what to play." So anyway, sorry, I don't cancel me. Okay, ready? Okay, I'm going to let you handle that part. Ready? Can they hear us?
Yeah. Should we sing the song?
Yeah, ready?
Okay. 2, 1, 2, 3, go. He used to drink a lot, now he talks a lot. Keep you on your toes. He's the Eric Miranda show. When he drank a lot, he would fight a lot. He might punch you in your nose. It's the Eric Miranda show. And there are people who will tell you he is crazy. If you listen very closely, he's unbelievable. Drink a lot, now he talks a lot to keep you on your toes. It's Eric Miranda, Eric Miranda, Eric Miranda show.
Woo! Right on, man. This thing is wild.
That was very good.
Yeah, I don't get there's got to be some kind of. Am I striking it too hard? How are you getting?
Well, it's like the motion is different on the guitar. I'm letting you do it like you kind of want it to be like kind of shaped more like
that.
So this goes back and forth across a string like that.
Listen, he just taught me a secret that all of my exes they're like, why? Wow. That's some side action right there, man. That is wild.
That's the secret to life, right?
All right.
That's good.
Yeah, Steve, you're right. Let's do it again. He used to drink a lot, now he talks a lot to keep you on your toes. It's the Eric Miranda show. When you take a lot, you buy a lot, punch you in your nose. It's the Eric Miranda show. There are people who will tell you it's crazy. But if you listen very closely, he's unbelievable. He used to drink a lot, now he talks a lot. He'll give you all your jobs. It's Eric Miranda, Eric Miranda, Eric Miranda show. All right, much better that time. Woo! All right, so
Good work.
cool, man. That's really cool. All right, so now I want to get into a couple of other things. So Stones, Beatles, but now the being a dad thing. So you're now in a band with your 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15, 16 now.
14.
14.
Yeah.
Oh, so he's younger than my daughter. Oh,
A little bit.
see, I was hoping they'd be like, I was hoping it'd become a thing. He's such a good looking and smart kid. I love him. So he's in a band with you now, playing
Yeah.
drums.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard it. We've recorded. We never finished that recording, but we'll do that.
Yeah.
He's really talented. So what's that like? Because I have a son who wants to be an engineer, a daughter who sings and dances, but now she does Muay Thai and fucking hits so hard. So today we ended up having to pair up in Muay Thai just because of the way it worked.
Yeah.
And she's kicking the pads with her right leg and she's lifting me off the ground. I'm like, geez.
Wow.
So she's just like, so my little dainty artist is just like a Miranda. She's just like a tough, which is fine with me. But what's it like to have Sasha in a band with you in rehearsals, focusing and like doing what you do?
Well, it's been really interesting, man, because like when he was born, you know, I had him when I was like older, and like the way things just kind of timed out for me with the course of events, it became really difficult for me to be in a band after I became a dad.
Right.
Not his fault, obviously.
Right, obviously.
but it kind of pinched down that.
Yeah, let me make sure you. I'm a levels guy. Sorry,
yeah,
folks.
that's cool. It kind of pinched down that part of my life for a while, and when it started fighting its way back out again, like part of it was practical. It's like what can I do in my current living situation? And my son Sasha, he always liked music and he liked to play and he was interested, and then we just started doing it, and it was a hobby, and we've been doing it. He's only been playing for like a couple of years. He's never had a drum lesson.
So good.
He sounds really good.
I mean, look, I recorded him. He's got a natural feel. He doesn't rush. And the interesting thing about Chris's son Sasha to me is he's listening for what he's making the drums sound like. And that was the thing that I noticed first. You know, the thing, you know, again, getting back to the Beatles, even though we now know that Ringo was created in a laboratory. But first of all, you know what? I'm going to get distracted for a second. But before we get back to Sasha, what the fuck? You know what? I love this when you play it. Within You, Without You, I hate that song. And that guy, the Maharishi, that guy, George Harrison, is the whitest guy he's the whitest guy in the Beatles, right? And he's the reason we have a bunch of college students running around New York City with yoga mats. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? Like, I was down by NYU. I see this girl, she's got a yoga mat. She says, yeah, when I graduate, I'm gonna become a yoga instructor. I said, your mom and dad spent $85,000 a year so you could become a yoga instructor. She said, it's not about the money. It's about being close to Mother India. I said, you can't get a job at a T-Mobile call center? And then, by the way, I met the oldest living NYU student the other day, 107.
Wow.
Still lives with her parents. So, anyway.
Was it like one of Keith Richards' kids?
Yeah, right. So, all right. So check it out. All right. So Sasha is now playing. When you listen to Ringo Starr, when you listen to Roger Taylor, when you listen to John Bonham, and I mentioned those three, and there are a lot of great drummers who have this thing they do. But they're the three that when I hear them, I'm hearing variances in where they're hitting their hi-hats, when, how hard. Sasha does that intuitively. He was just very like, the hi-hat doesn't go to him. It goes you know what I mean? He's got that thing where he's making music as he's hitting it. I noticed that he was zeroing in on a snare drum. How he hit it what was it? I know he sings and he does other things musically. What were those drum conversations like did you have drum conversations with him?
At the beginning, we didn't. At the beginning, we did everything very intuitively. And I mean, we did communicate with each other, and I did help shape his playing. But there wasn't a whole lot of verbal feedback involved in it until Ethan Rosenblatt came over and started playing bass with us. and then there were like more people needing to understand what each other were doing.
Right.
And now my longtime bandmate Rima Fand is like back in the mix, and we're like and we're talking a lot more. And Sasha is developing very quickly. I'm so grateful to have someone that age who is so easy about taking feedback.
Yeah.
He's very confident.
Yeah.
Very,
When we worked together, he was totally like,
Yeah.
if I said, hey, make that adjustment.
Yeah, he never hears it as criticism. He's like, this person's trying to
Help
get
me.
better.
That, by the way, wouldn't it be great if we all thought that way?
Yeah, it would be helpful,
Like,
wouldn't it?
what happens when somebody gives me constructive criticism about music? I'm like, thank you so much. And then I never fucking call them again. Did you know a guy once told me I looked fat and I unfriended him?
Yeah.
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 And I did look fat.
I would just like to go on the record right now saying you're looking very svelte right now.
Svelte. So, by the
good.
way, today was crazy.
Yeah.
Today was so Marcus does jujitsu. Marcus is actually longest in jujitsu out of the three of us.
Uh-huh.
And even though I can pick him up and throw him over the furniture because I'm stronger than him, he's better at it than me. So when he watches me train, he's like, no, Dad. He's like, you gotta he's like, if you don't shift your hips. So that's kind of cool. Mm. But today, Thursdays, I don't know why I do the show on Thursdays, but it's my long. I do a Muay Thai training, then I hit the pads, then I spar, then I do jujitsu. It's a long day for me, but I've become obsessed. I have to get rid of this, folks. You all know I have an eating disorder, right? I either don't eat or I eat too much. So this Apple Watch, between this and my food app, like I know exactly how many. I put the rice and beans in the app. Like I know exactly how many calories I consumed today, exactly how many I burnt, and I'm nuts. And so, of course, when the guy said I looked fat, I was like, fucking, like, it's my religion, man. Like, this was years ago. I was fat. Not fat. That's not a nice way to put it. I was
bigger than you wanted to be.
Bigger than I wanted to be, yeah. All right, so Sasha, how does Sasha ever get to make corrections to the adults in the band? Like, is he willing to say, hey, can you double that downbeat with me?
He hasn't voiced a whole lot yet because he's like so much in like kind of like student way of thinking, but but I know that he would and he will. He would and he will. Cool. Yeah, I think he would feel comfortable doing that.
By the way, you know what I'm most proud of Sasha for? Right. Sasha was running for school president, was it? What was he? And he did Happy, right?
Yeah.
And like, so guys, so here's like this good looking kid and he does martial arts, right? Yeah. So this is the smart, good looking, cool kid, right? And then he, as a thing, did he change the lyrics to make it hit for his?
He did.
So he did a version of Happy by, why can't I think of his name?
McFerrin.
Was it McFerrin?
Yeah, I think so.
Or
is that right?
No, it's some Farrell. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's like so he did and he danced on it, and it was like the most like it was the coolest thing in the world, but because he was so willing to be so vulnerable and not, it wasn't like again, by the time he was 12, they all want to like, get tattoos and talk about like
there was some backlash to that.
Yeah, I think
because he made that thing. I just love it. It's like one of my favorite things I've ever seen. I just think it's great. I think he's amazing. But he got a lot of flack, not because kids didn't think it was well done. But because he did it at all.
Because it was the song Happy by Farrell. Or
just the fact that he would make a video of himself performing for other kids for his school thing. He got lambasted for that.
I love it.
And it made him like he felt like a little embarrassed about it. And this was a very interesting quandary for me as a parent, because like on one hand, I understand that if I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I'm your dad," and that's cool, it's gonna be like
I'm never doing that again.
On the other hand, like it really pissed me off that other kids were making him feel like a loser for doing something beyond what any of them could ever do.
Yeah, so There's a video online of so Francis Dunnery does a charity, an English charity every year. And we couldn't do it one of the years because of the lockdowns. So we did it by video, and Steve Hackett from Genesis was the co-host. And it was, so Francis said, hey, do you want to do some bluegrass? I did something with Kelly John Marcus and Sheila. I'll show you that later. I think it's on my YouTube. And then Marcus, he came home one day and goes, some of my friends found that on your channel, and they made fun of me. And we were just like, that's because they can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
And Marcus is like, all right, cool. And again, Marcus is like he's a nice kid. He never gets in it with people, but he's a physically imposing kid for his age. And he does jujitsu for 3 or 4 years now. So he's got that confidence. How did Sasha, was he crushed by that? Or was he like, what the fuck?
He was not crushed by it. He just, it was just more like I'm not going to make that mistake again, kind of a thing. He was not crushed by it. That actually, thank you for asking that, because that actually makes me realize how good I feel about him, because this is not a kid who other kids point him and say, I'm going to define you to you, and you're going to believe it. You're A, B, and C.
No, it does not seem like his person. No, like hanging out with him, like you said, when Sasha was here, so he's 14 now. So he's 13. He, again, like totally, it's just like hanging out with another guy. He's like totally cool, smart, so that's really cool. Now, I have pictures of me with Rob Johnson and Brian Geltner, Plug Bunny's pictures, of giving the finger like this, and like the 3 fingers, and then you remember Plug Bunny's getting chased out of Right Track Inn by bikers. Remember that story with and then all the crazy things that we did. And some of that, I really regret. Some of that, if my kids have never seen me drunk, you all have seen me drunk. You know what I mean? So what, is there anything with the whole anti-pop thing, anything of your past that you don't want him to necessarily come across,
Not really. By the time the stuff got certainly if he could see a 24/7 video of what an asshole I was when I was in my 20s, I didn't want him to see that. But as far as what stuck to the public record, with the work and stuff like that, I don't feel embarrassed by any of that.
I that's cool. That's because again, because I'm thinking of I'm thinking of Flea, and I'm thinking of just the things what does a guy like Axl Rose, who's kind of a mature adult now, what does he say if he has kids? I threw a piano out a hotel window and almost killed people. And then apparently this was it Zach Bryan or Morgan Wallen? Morgan Wallen, one of the country guys, he threw a chair out of a Nashville bar window, and he's it looks like it's going to get reduced, but he's facing felonies because it almost hit someone. It's and then and he has a child. This guy's 28 years old. He's got a baby. It's you have to live up to that stuff. So it's just now I want to talk about Penny Arcade for a second. So you're Penny's musical director. Now, were you and Penny married at one point? Yeah, you guys were married. Yeah. She's such a hero to me. I remember seeing her in the 90s, and I think I've mentioned this to you. She said, she was talking about Rudy Giuliani shutting down all the peep shows and all, and really going after the sex industry. And her line in the show was, Mr. Giuliani, we may not share the same morality, but we do share the same economy. And, making the point that these women are making several $1,000s a week. That's how they support their families.
Yeah.
And you're taking that away for some moral purpose. And I just remember thinking, wow, am I a liberal now? I just remember being so blown away. And then now this is something, and again, we don't get political on the Eric Miranda show, but she's so old school left. She's so old school left that when I saw her on the last show recently, I was like, man, this is what I need in my life. She's so clear on why her socio-political brain, she's so clear on why she doesn't deceive herself, and therefore she can't deceive anyone else.
You just put a really interesting thought in my head about her, which is when you say she's so old school left, like what flashed through my mind when you said that was, to be like really old school left, you have to understand and feel the reality of what it is to be old school right in order to be old school.
Yeah, interesting.
She's from she's from New Britain, Connecticut, little working class town.
Italian.
She's Italian. Like a lot of her neighbors and stuff were like working class people from Poland and Italy, and it was like a traditional place.
Yeah,
she was a pariah. She didn't last long there. It's like she was in reform school when she was Sasha's age.
Yeah.
But her value system as a lefty is informed by an intimate understanding of what it means
to be a righty. Sure. Well, she also says it told an interesting story, and this is something now and she can correct me on this, and you can correct me on this, but this is what I loved. She seems above the simplicity, and no offense to all of my left and righties, all my Democrats and Republicans, but she seems above
to anybody.
She seems above the stupidity of it all. She seems just way too smart to follow bullet points and a platform. She just seems way too nuanced and I'm going to tell you what gave me that indication. She mentions in her show, what's the name of the new show that I saw, and when is that going to be running continually, or is it?
The episode, it's Art of Becoming. It's like a.
Oh, you said that. I'm sorry. My apologies.
That's all right.
Yeah. So, and is that going to do a full run?
She's working on the next episode in that series.
Okay, so I see. So it's going right because that
like a serialized thing.
The series that I saw, the night that I saw you as musical director playing. She mentioned having dinner at a friend's house with Henry Kissinger, and on the Upper East Side, and then and again, I'm going to push the envelope a little bit, a bunch of very lefty cat ladies with like stringy gray hair and the John Lennon glasses and the jeans hiked up past their belly button with the big belt buckle were like, well, and they made a reaction, and she waved it off like, I don't have time for that conversation. And it was so refreshing because she was just like it was just like, we don't do that here. This is not about that silliness. This is about real conversations about how a life turns into a life, like how a life that begins here ends up here. And she goes through her whole story, starting in Connecticut, being downtown with Andy Warhol and all this. And the reason, and it seems a little unfair that I'm asking you about it as if she's the guest, but
no, that's all right.
But you have been with her first as a husband and then as a friend for 30 years now, 25 years.
We met in the mid 90s.
So this is like 30-year friendship, and so you've watched the half of that evolution. Pretty much, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just wild. And I'm always so fascinated because I have, on the Eric Miranda show, the people who watch the show, a lot of, there's diversity in politics and demographics. Yeah. And then I get private messages all the time. You need to tell, you need to and they want me to be a mouthpiece for political parties and stuff. I'm just never doing that. Ever. Yeah. You know what I mean? I can't do this shit except when you look at this, this is advocacy for Ronald Reagan as I get older. Well, got my little. Was your dad a political activist? Did he?
Activist kind of implies that he did something valuable. He was active. He talked.
Yeah, and he was like a White House lawn kind of guy. With did he show up to those things?
He was a 60s liberal
hippie.
Not a hippie.
Was he
Not a
more like the
hippie.
throw bottles at cops kind of guy?
No, he was more just bitch a lot at home.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we all have that. There's a comedian, Shane Gillis, and he talks about like having a Fox News dad, but he says something that made me think of your brother Patrick. Also, he says, Patrick's a history teacher, right, or a
Yes, he
historian?
is.
Yeah, yeah. So,
He's a history professor.
he says he says something like he's really into history, and he says, which is also known as onset republicanism. He says, he's like, I don't want to admit it, and he goes, but some days I feel like I'm fighting it. I was like, he's like, I've been watching too many World War II documentaries, and I was just thinking of like, because I knew your dad was kind of a ranter raver. You told me like he was a 60s liberal, and then Patrick is like, where is he? Does he have like a, as a history teacher, does he stay above the fray? Like,
oh, I think he's very professionally responsible about that. History is supposed to be an objective pursuit.
Yeah, pursuit. Yeah, that's yeah. And the reason I ask you this is because, all right. So anyway, folks, Chris is, man, I've learned so much. I mean, I don't even think we're politically apart, but it's just like you are the guy who taught me to stay out of that. Like when people were talking about like, Reagan and, whoever, Mondale, you were just like, what? Like you didn't seem to have time for any of that. You were like going deeper into like how we're being poisoned by companies. Like you're always like, you're always like, and you guys help me. And when I say you guys, I mean like, and I have my more conservative friends who are the same way. They just won't take the bullet point bait. And it's just like, I need that to survive in this world. And, I listen to that guy, Tim Dillon, a lot, his podcast, and I find myself hearing more and more of that. Like people realize that they're being, despite the ideology, which, ranges from left to right, there are people who finally seem to realize they're being suckered by doing the bidding for two corporations. By the way, I want to tell you all a story. This is political. I worked at WVOX in New Rochelle as a radio host. And whenever I would need a comment about something that one of the New York or national politicians did, I would call the party headquarters. And I would, if I didn't have the number handy, I would call information. And I'd say government listings, National Democratic Party. And they'd say, that's corporate listings. And I kept saying government, like we think these corporations, the Democratic Party and the Republic, we think they're part of our government. And they're not.
No, they're not.
They fucking usurped it from us. Yeah. They stole it a few hundred years ago. And that was, so I'm fascinated by the way you thought. I've always been. I do know you had a Che Guevara. Did you have a Che Guevara bumper sticker on your horse carriage in Mexico?
I've seen a few. I've seen a few down in Cuba.
In Cuba, right. So right. Oh my God, I just completely made that up. But I.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So can we do a song together just singing? Is there something? What song do we know?
I don't know.
It's got to be a Beatles song, right?
Yeah. Okay.
What
should we do?
Should we I don't know. Should we do should I grab a guitar?
Sure.
I'm gonna grab a guitar. Stay with me, folks.
Oh yeah.
Oh, see, this is when they realize I'm only 5'6" when I get out from oh, sorry. This has got a big old body on it. All right, guitar time.
Dum, dum, dum,
Let's do a Beatles song.
Dum, dum, dum. Yeah.
This is the weight music. I'm so hyper. By the way, everybody, I actually drank a Diet Dr. Pepper live on the air.
There you go.
Also, I could tell a joke about 7-Eleven.
I saw it with my own eyes.
Okay. Would that be a C?
Yeah.
Okay. What happens if we go? Can you do that? Now, if I do a capo and go up a whole step, can you still do it, or would that be too difficult?
Could you do it a half step below that?
I can't do it below it, but all right. Can you do it on that though?
I can fake it.
All right. Don't blame Chris for the fact that this isn't the right key. You want me to tune down a half step?
No.
I once met a girl, or should I say, she once met me. She showed me her room, isn't it good? Norwegian wood. She asked me to stay and she told me to sit anywhere. I looked around and I noticed there wasn't a chair. We sat on the rug, biding our time, drinking her wine. We talked until 2, and then she said, it's time for bed. She told me she worked in the morning and started to laugh. I told her I didn't and crawled off to sleep in the bath. And when I awoke, I was alone. This girl had flown. So I lit the fire. Isn't it good? Norwegian wood. Woo! Got some Beatles on.
Tricky key for that.
Tricky key for that. Tricky key. That, yeah. So that, but I can't believe, I mean, it's so amazing because I've played that song like 150 times in my life, and I've never had a sitar in the same room. So yeah, so we're at the top of the hour. Should we do one more? What can we do? Are there any? I don't know if there's any sitar ones, but let's do something really poppy Beatles. What should we do?
That's a good
one. Can we do I Want to Hold Your Hand?
This one?
I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so get on that microphone. I'll tell you something I think you'll understand when I say that something. I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand. Oh, please say to me, you let me be your man. And please say to me, you let me hold your hand. You let me hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand. I don't know it. What do you think of that? Whoa! Sing mofo. What? Sing mofo. Haha. I don't know. I can't see. Anyway, so listen, man. All right. You know what? Let's. I thought I knew that one.
I don't know it.
Yeah. I think we did enough. Listen, I want to tell y'all I love y'all. Please thank my guest, Chris Rael, for showing me the Eric Miranda show on sitar. Guys, just so you know, I droned a lot. He used to drone a lot. He gave me props. I did okay.
Very well.
I listened to it a lot this week, so I kind of knew where it was supposed to be. But This thing doesn't even have frets. It has like it has bridge case. What is?
It's raised frets.
Yeah, that's like crazy. So anyway,
Pull it and it bends. Wow.
we love y'all. Eric Miranda and Chris Rael signing off. And much love to y'all.
All right.
All right.